Welcome back everybody to another tutorial. This time we talk about Lofi Hip Hop. It's a genre that I really like because it's relaxing, and especially when I'm coding or I'm sitting on the sofa and reading a book, it's great for the background. So in this tutorial I will show you how you can create your own chord progressions, how you can create own bass lines and melodies and stuff like that, and also some other tricks. So let's get started. I'm working with Sundog at the moment and Ableton Live, but you can take any DAW that you like. So I created a beat and Sundog is sending the notes to Ableton Live. Let's listen. It's pretty simple, so let's focus on the chords and the melodies. Okay, starting with the basics. In Lofi Hip Hop we usually work with a beat per minute range from 70 to 100 beats per minute, and I work with 82 here. Many producers use a little bit of swing, not too much, but just a little bit. So let's get back to 54. And 4 bars, it's a good length for a typical pattern. And for the scale, we usually work with major or minor. You can take the minor scale when you want to create more sad or the rainy atmosphere. We work with the major scale when we want to work with more happy chords or happy melodies. In my tutorial I will use F major. Okay, let's get to the chords. I click on chords and you can see the Sundog chords page. The upper part is just triads, and for Lofi Hip Hop we want to go a bit more to the jazzy side. And in jazz we usually work with 4-note chords or maybe even 5 or 6-note chords, but let's stick to 4 notes. So as you can see, we have this line here. This line down here are the most important chords of that scale. And let's listen and just toy around and hear what sounds interesting for you. Up here we can create a chord progression. I'll start with the first chord. And I would recommend to use the first chord of that scale at least once, especially in the beginning or at the end. So it's good for the listener because when you work with this chord, the listener can identify the scale, at least in the subconscious way. Okay, let's start with the 1, go to the 2, back to the 1, and a 4. Let's listen. And there's one common technique that many producers use. When we go from this chord to the next, we do just a little jump. Then we do another jump back, and then we do a bigger jump in the last part. So what many people do, they take a look at the chords or that chord notes here, and use either the second note or the third note and move it up a bit. So the idea is that we connect the chords with each other and to do smaller jumps than before. So now, just a small jump. Let's listen again. For me it sounds good now, so I will use it. And let's listen to the song again. It's still just the drums, so let's start with the piano and with the chords of the piano. We click on follow the chords with this instrument. Now it sounds like this. As you can hear, Sundog is following your chord progression automatically now. When we play instruments, we can hit the notes either very hard, so that's a high velocity, or we can touch them slowly and softly. And for Lofi Hip Hop, I would recommend to use the lower notes or the lower velocities. because when you hit natural instruments too hard, they sound usually quite harsh, and we don't want to have too harsh sounds in Lofi Hip Hop. So let's switch the velocity to maybe 103. So that's not the full range anymore. And it sounds like this. It's already more relaxed. In Lofi Hip Hop, it's a good idea to play the chords on the first beat of the bar. And in many songs, they just sit there and nothing happens at all then. But in other songs, we re-trigger the chords again. So we play them in the rhythmic way. Let's use an example. Let's put another trigger here. And I would recommend to don't overdo it, so you don't want to have too hectic chords. You can also create a note stop at the end. And now it sounds more groovy, because when we stop the chord notes before the beat, it creates more tension and it puts more focus on the beat. So that's more focus on the beat, but I don't like it for that song now. Let's get on with the bass. When you work with the bass, you usually play on the lowest notes of the chord or on the root notes. I click on Follow the chord notes with this instrument. We have a 16-step pattern here that's simply playing the bass at the beginning of the first beat. And in many songs you can get away with it. But you can also put other bass lines or bass notes on the pattern. So let's add some other triggers here. So when you switch between longer notes and shorter notes, you create a bit more of a groove. As you can see, I work with zeros here, and the zero is always the lowest note of the chord. And when I use 1 here, it's playing the next note of the chord. So let's listen again. Yeah, it's quite melodic. And another trick, a pattern of 16 steps is quite short. When we go from 16 steps to 32 steps, Sundog is creating a copy for us in the second part. So now I can create small variations. I remove that note. And now it sounds like this. That's quite a good start. So let's get on with the melody. I use a piano for that. And when I speak of melodies, I don't speak of the real lead melodies like crazy stuff that everybody's identifying all the time. But instead I speak of sprinkling with some notes. So you take some notes like 1 note or 2 or 3 notes and just put them somewhere outside of the main beats. You can start with melodies that just sit on the chord notes, because when you only work on the chord notes, it's always harmonic. I say follow the chord notes, put a trigger here and here, and that's a small melody. As you can see, I put it on the 9 and the 13, and they both are marked as bold steps. And bold steps are always on the beat in Sundog. And when you work on the beat or on the off beat, so the part directly in the middle, it oftentimes sounds too focused, too beat focused. When you want to create some groove, you put some notes, not too many, but some notes outside of the beat and of the offbeat. So let's put a note here and let's listen again. Can create other variations as well. Remove the steps. Just a small downward melody. Also remember to use different velocities from time to time, so this will sound more natural. And again, we can use the trick. We go from 16 steps to 32. We have a copy of our pattern here and create a variation. Now it sounds like this. Yeah, as you can hear, that's already quite nice, but to be honest, when you only work on the chord notes, it sounds okay, but it's also a little bit too harmonic. So, what can we do here? It's a good idea to change the mode from chord notes to scale notes. So when I put it on scale notes, Sundog is playing back all the notes of the scale, depending on what's happening in the pattern. So let's listen to this small melody. So already has got some more tension. And when we use the pattern trigger area here, we can create a small upward and downward movement. So when we work with the pattern trigger in this way, we can create other melodies that go higher in the scale and then down again. And another common technique, there is a technique that is called ostinato. And an ostinato is a small melody. And this melody is maybe just one bar and it's playing on the scale notes. And when you play such a melody, the listener can get used to it because it's very short and it's get repeated again and again. And it's like the signature of your track. But because it's repeated all the time, it slowly moves to the background. Let's listen. So you notice even when the chords change, the melody is always going on and on. And another thing, in many tracks there are also instruments like horns or saxophones, organs, choirs, stuff like that. And these instruments usually play longer notes. So far we always used short notes and now we play with longer notes. For example, here we use chord notes and 16 steps and it sounds like this. We can also work with longer patterns. For example, we use 32 steps and put a small melody here. And it sounds like this. Yeah, and that's it. So these are the main rules. And I also created a free download package for you. And you can find it at filiasound.com/packages/Lofi Hip Hop. And I put it in the description. And basically this free download contains patterns for Sundog, for chord potion and you will find bass lines, piano lines and stuff like that, and you can always tweak them. So use them as a base. You can also find some chord progressions there. Yeah, and I hope you like it. Goodbye, see you next time.